Sudbury Mayor's Forum. It's not a debate. We're going to get some answers for you guys, though, about some of the questions that you care about with the mayors in the downtown area. I'm Chair Downtown Sudbury, Jeff McIntyre. The BIA represents all of the businesses within the downtown. Our funding comes from those businesses that was funded through the city. So our members pay an additional levy above and beyond their property taxes, which funds the BIA and the work that they do. The work we do includes things like Rib Fest, Blues for Food. It adds to the ambience downtown, so we put money into things like the flower pots that you see in the downtown, or the hanging baskets, or increasing the street level beauty. So we work with the city because a lot of that's city infrastructure. So we're a partner with the city on a lot of these projects, and we're there to be the voice for the downtown member, for the businesses downtown. The city has been a great partner in a lot of those things, though it's not always a smooth piece, because the city has a lot of different demands from across the city. And one of the things that the BIA would like to see is more groups like ourselves across the city, where private businesses are contributing to their areas and putting in their own plans to improve their own main streets across the city. Because what we know is people that care about local across the city. So if we develop local shoppers in the Valley, or local shoppers in Capreol, that means they'll come as a tourist downtown more and experience what we have that's unique and new. And the same thing with people from Sudbury will go do some of the unique and new things out in their areas. And we'll have a stronger economy. So we'd like to see more organizations like ourselves across the city, so that our entire city can succeed and we can have the vibrant downtowns that we need. With that, I'm going to hand it over to Jerry LaBelle, and Jerry can introduce the candidates. I think I said everything I was supposed to. Maureen's back there. Yes. Thank you to Sudbury.com for live streaming this. And here you are, Jerry.
Thank you very much. Welcome, and thank you for coming out. This is great. This is the before last one that you have to do. Do you have second to last one? Okay. There's one more. I know I'm doing another one tomorrow night, which is the cart one. Yeah. And then it's Thursday. It's Thursday.
Yeah.
I'm lost. The format tonight is very simple. We're going to have them introduce themselves and tell you why they should be the mayor of the city. And then we're going to have a discussion based on questions we have put together based on the answers to the questions that we sent them. We sent them a number of questions. Their answers will be posted, or they already posted, Maureen. They're posted on the Downtown Sudbury website, so if you want to see the answers. And the questions we'll be asked this evening are based on those answers as well. We are not going to be overly severe with time, because I've got 6 people here, which is a lot easier than 11. So we can actually have some decent time instead of cutting you off at 30 seconds like we've been doing. And we'll begin, and let's start with Brian Bigger. Mayor Bigger?
Well, good evening, everyone. Thanks to Maureen and the BIA for hosting this evening.
Brian, can I interrupt you for a second?
Yep.
If you can't hear back there, please wave and we'll adjust the microphones. If you can't hear, okay. Can we turn the microphones up? I just want to make sure everybody gets heard.
Hello. Better?
They're going to turn up the microphone.
Okay. Is that better? At the back of the room, you can hear it now?
Yeah, okay.
Thank you. Well, good evening, and thanks to Maureen and the BIA for hosting this evening. The downtown's been a hot topic for at least half of this current term. The good news is we're making a lot of progress downtown. Since becoming mayor, we've announced major projects like Place des Arts and the Junction, that includes a new library and art gallery. The list is long with all of the projects we've taken on over the last few years, and I'll be highlighting them during the answer period. I supported the downtown option. It didn't pass. There were not enough votes. I do have to respect the will of council, and I will respect the will of council. And we are getting a new event center. Just last week, I announced that I want more police downtown. I want more of a police presence. I want the downtown to be more vibrant and to be successful. More shops, more restaurants, and we need customers who can feel safe and walking around in the downtown. Our nightlife and entertainment scenes need a safe environment where people can get to their cars without worry. We need a downtown that's desirable, safe, and a good destination for visitors and residents. I believe that the downtown has benefited and become better over the last 4 years. I'm asking everyone in Sudbury to keep moving forward, to not stop the progress we're finally achieving as a city. Don't stop the momentum we have created. We're finally delivering for all parts of Sudbury, and we need to continue down that road of progress for all of Greater Sudbury.
Thank you very much. Cody.
Good evening, everybody. Bonjour. My name is Cody Cacciotti. For those who don't know me, for the last 8 years, I've been working for the Railway Museum out in Caperell. One of the jobs that I've been tasked with out there is bringing life back to the downtown core in Caperell. Using the museum as a catalyst, we've been able to do some pretty phenomenal things out there in terms of reinvesting in the waterfront, creating a vision for that town, and making sure it didn't become a closet community for the city of Greater Sudbury. I believe in having a vibrant downtown here in the Sudbury core. I believe that one of the major ways in which a community is judged or assessed is on the strength of its downtown core. And with that being said, I feel like we have a ton of work to do moving forward. I agree that we need to create new anchor destinations for the downtown, but I'm not sold on the fact that the junction is the solution for our downtown. I'll get into that a little bit more over the question period, but I think we're definitely missing the mark in terms of what that project could do and the potential that the arts and culture scene could have in the downtown core. I'm looking forward to talking with you over the course of the night. I'd like to thank you guys all for having me here to share my ideas in terms of what I could potentially bring to the city, and thank you again.
Thank you very much. Bill Crumplin.
Yes, I love Sudbury. I guess one of the reasons I'm running for mayor is because I think I have something to offer the city. I feel that we have not reached our potential, and I think that I have some skills and knowledge that could work very well in helping us achieve a Sudbury that's more vibrant and dynamic, and put it on the map, a bigger dot on the map. One of the things that I'm championing, that was hard to get out, is a pedestrian mall downtown. And what I'd like to do is work with business downtown, work with city staff, senior management, and the millennials. When I talk to the millennials, and I have quite a few of them that I deal with on a daily basis, they tell me that, well, actually they answer my question. I say, if we had a casino, would you guys stay in Sudbury? And they say, no. And I said, what do you want? They said, we want lifestyle. And I think that's what we have to do. We have to bring some life into our downtown. And I think the pedestrian mall could do that. I envision something like the Byward Market in Ottawa, where we have pop-up retail, we have patios that spill out onto the street, whichever street it is. And you know, it's just more dynamic. And the other thing that I wonder about is why we are not rejuvenating some of the buildings that we have downtown. I've heard from different people that, okay, well, such and such a building is 70 years old. Well, you know, it's time to knock it down because it's 70. Well, what would that mean to the pyramids, the Leaning Tower of Pisa, you know, even our Parliament buildings? 70 is not old for a building. We might want to give it a reno, but we don't need to knock it down, particularly if it might be worth, I understand, in the order of $50 million as it stands. So I think we have a lot of potential here. We've got history on the landscape, and let's try to work with that history and make this downtown more vibrant. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Jeff Huska.
June 27th, 2017 will go down as one of the most important dates in the city of Greater Sudbury for some time. That evening I sat in council chambers and watched as our council debated over the location for the Sudbury Community Arena. It was disconcerting to see the mayor and council fumble over a process that resulted in a decision that would ultimately change the dynamics of the city's downtown and send it, unfortunately, in the wrong direction against the city's very own official plan that is intended to enhance the viability of downtown Greater Sudbury. Honestly, if members of our council don't or won't follow these plans that are put in place, why do we re-elect them? My name is Jeff Huska, and I want to be the next mayor of Greater Sudbury. Most importantly, until all the appeals have been exhausted, I will continue to advocate for a new community arena in downtown Sudbury. How could council turn away $1 million offered, first of all, by the BIA towards the project? How could our mayor not ask for an economic study outlining the ramifications of removing the arena from its existing home? How could council spend upwards of $300,000 on a study outlining the ramifications of removing the arena and then not follow it? The downtown should be the heart of the city. I'd offer incentives to developers to increase housing opportunities. The city core could be promoted as a place to go where art, culture, entertainment, education, and business merge together simultaneously to create a center point of our city. I would increase the number of parking spots and, more importantly, overnight parking. I would support the infusion of more police officers into the downtown to help ensure public safety and work with community partners to deal with the ongoing drug issues. These concerns about safety and drugs aren't new to our current mayor, and he's had the last 4 years to increase the police presence. Not surprisingly, his pledge only came at election time. You want a mayor that knows what's important to a vibrant, growing downtown. Thank you.
Thank you. Dan Melanson.
Like many of the other candidates here tonight, I have some thoughts with regards to what's right about downtown and what we're doing moving forward that's right about downtown and what's not quite right about downtown. I don't believe that there's a magic bullet, a $100 million bullet that's going to solve the problems of downtown. I believe that the solution to downtown is found in a much more organic manner, in smaller projects that are more affordable, that can move a comprehensive agenda forward and build a critical mass that will create what everyone is looking for, which is a vibrant downtown that people want to come to, want to live in, want to come and visit from out of town. This type of thing has been done before in Toronto at Artscape on Queen Street West, where they took an old abandoned warehouse some 20 years ago and with a reasonable investment turned it into an artist colony, and it has since grown and prospered and turned into quite a tourist attraction of its own right. It didn't take $100 million. It's been very effective, and it's something that I think we could and should emulate. We don't have to tear down stuff. We don't have to spend hundreds of millions of dollars. We don't have to go into debt for the next 30 or 40 years in order to revitalize the downtown and move it in a direction that people will want to live and play and participate in. So much like what Cody was saying and Bill and unlike what Mayor Bigger has to say, I think smaller is better. Build a critical mass, have it move forward, and we'll all benefit in the long run. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Patricia Mills.
Can you hear me in the back? Okay, thanks. I want to thank the organizers and thank everybody for being here tonight on this beautiful spring day. My opening statement will speak directly to the mayor. From the start of this mayoral campaign, I have said that the main issues are leadership and transparency. My comments have a direct bearing on why the Downtown Association and every citizen should be wary of any promises made by this mayor. Since the last election, our city has embarked on a series of big projects, projects that were brought forward by dynamic, energetic, and committed people from within our community. In each case, the mayor has stepped in to reshape that vision to his own liking and to the detriment of our community. Originally envisioned as a private-public partnership, the Kingsway Entertainment District is now arbitrarily being fully funded through borrowing. The community has not given the time to consider and look at the options being forwarded. The junction does not even closely resemble the recommendation of a group of hardworking citizens who had worked hard for years to create a unique performing arts and convention vision. That, again, was a top-down decision. As mayor, I would not act without consultation, disregard the hard work and ideas of our citizens, and move forward with an alternative agenda. I would look closely at private-public partnerships rather than arbitrarily decide to borrow $400 million on the backs of taxpayers. I will not commit our taxpayers to a legacy of debt. It's time to stop the madness in spending and get back to ensuring we do the basics like roads and water and the investments in our future in a manner, and we can do them, but in a manner that we can afford. I would listen and consult in an open and honest manner with the people of Greater Sudbury and work with our communities to establish our priorities for spending and investments. This is not only an important priority for downtown, it's important for our entire community. Thank you.
Thank you. I think this is a first. I mean, I've done this quite often. I've never seen anyone take less than the time allotted. And almost everyone, I think one person went the exact 2 minutes and no one went overtime, which is amazing. Usually I have to stop people at 3 or 4 minutes, so thank you very much. That's great. Means we have to get more. A couple of things. If you want to ask a question, we don't want the same question being asked 20 times, so raise your hand and we have cards distributed in pens so you can write the question and then the questions will be brought to me and we'll decide which questions get asked. Secondly, I need to tell you why there's only 6 candidates up here. It was a decision from the board. It was made to decide to invite 6 people to the debate, and it was the 6 people who were the top 6 in the what do you call it again? In the polls. So you have the 6 top people right here. This is why the people were chosen here. So that's why otherwise we'd have 11 people or 9 people, whatever it is. You have 11 people up here. Makes it difficult. So it was oops, sorry. I keep my back to that. With that, I do have some questions that were prepared. If I get my glasses here. There we go. The first question had to do with leadership. And there's a couple of questions that came out of that. So, number one, how will you, if elected mayor, ensure or enforce decorum between councillors and community groups, and the councillors and constituents? Let's start with Patricia Mills on this one.
If I don't put that, can you hear me?
No.
Okay, that doesn't go. All right. Okay, so being a reporter, it taught me to be fearless. I don't shy away from asking tough questions, and I don't shy away from making tough decisions. I believe in collaborative leadership, and by that I mean all the successes I've had in my life have been because I've had great people working with me. They haven't just been my successes. And an example of that would be the 40 Under 40 Awards program. When I launched that, it was to raise up the young people in our community, give them profile, and show the rest of our community the great leaders that we have here. And that 40 Under 40 Awards program has honored over 200 young leaders who are still in our community, creating wealth through entrepreneurship in our public and private sectors. So raising up other leaders, to me, is a collaborative leadership style. I come from Newfoundland. I love people, and I've learned how to get along with all types of personalities, and I'm a type of personality myself. So to me, it's important that everyone who's working toward the good of Sudbury actually believes they're working toward the good of Sudbury. And I believe that when we all sit in a collaborative way, we'll be able to achieve great things. And you have to treat people with kindness, and you have to care about our community. And I want a caring, loving community. And I don't know if that sounds soft, but that's how I feel. And I believe we can do that by working and nurturing relationships instead of pitting people against each other. That doesn't mean you can't be firm. That does not mean that at all. But we create an environment of trust. And if you don't have trust, you don't have a relationship.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ryan Bigger.
Thank you very much. So we've accomplished a lot in this last 4 years. In fact, the media reported that we had accomplished more in the first year than in the previous 4 years. You don't accomplish things, you don't make decisions without collaboration and working well as a group. And you know, the last election, the public wanted to see change. And there was change. We are the council that was put in place by the constituents. They wanted to see progress. We saw progress. You wanted to see slush funds gone. They're gone. You wanted to see movement on the downtown master plan. We've moved the downtown master plan forward. And I can talk about a lot of the projects that we've moved forward. Hot topics in the downtown, parking. So there have been numerous studies and reports that we've requested from staff. We've improved signage. We're removing the meters. We're moving to pay by plate, as well as discussing a standing request for energy parking, a pedestrian overpass, and a parking structure downtown. By the way, those are probably in the range of $15 to $20 million in costs. And those are asks that are on the table right now from the BIA. Homelessness. Annual report is showing improvements and reduced numbers between...
I'm sorry, Mayor Bigger. The question had to do with decorum and between councillors and council and community groups and councillors and constituents. We'll get to those later on as well. Cody?
So for me, the big thing, I would agree that a collaborative approach to leadership is what's going to work best, and that's not just between the mayor and council, but that stems all the way down to everybody living in every community across the city. Again, during my experience in Cape Breton, I've chaired a bunch of different committees. I've worked with volunteers, I've worked with paid staff, I've worked with councillors, and all three levels of government. And you can't accomplish things unless you've got everybody moving in the right direction and buying into a common goal. If we're going to continue to move this city forward, we need to make sure that everybody's buying into a vision that I don't necessarily think we have. I think what we've been doing for the last 4 years is a series of knee-jerk reactions that we've kind of sold off as progress. I don't think throwing a bunch of money at legacy projects is what we need.
Thank you, Cody. Let's we're off the topic again. So, Dan Melanson, please.
Well, you start off with decorum and respect. Anybody who's watched some of the recent council meetings would see that decorum is in short supply in some of those meetings, especially the last one when we got off on an hour and 15-minute dialogue on chickens. You know, you need to have a certain level of control over board meetings, council meetings, et cetera, and expect a certain give and take on the respect side, and I haven't been seeing that when I look at the council meetings. They look more like a gong show than a governing council that's making decisions worth hundreds of millions of dollars on a regular basis. So I would focus on those two attributes, and I would consult with those people who have something to bring to the table and make sure that their views are accurately represented at those meetings. That's it.
Thank you. Bill Crumplin.
Well, I think there are, again, a couple of strengths that I bring. First of all, as a professor, I know how to listen. I know how to marshal an argument. I know how to give everybody in the room a chance to speak their piece. I also happen to be a goaltender, and although I'm not Carey Price, I like to think that, you know, I'm a calm guy. I sit back and I wait for the game. And that, I think, is important. You have to be calm, you have to listen, but like any goaltender, if somebody comes across my blue ice, look out. I know when and where and how to stand up and take control of an issue. I also think that one thing that we have to do is change the way some councillors do their business. I'm a little in awe about how many times a councillor will say, well, I've voters participate. They're speaking to the choir, if you will. And I don't know how many people might be on those websites, but I think we need an official website that the city controls. We monitor discussion, and what we have is a situation where every councillor is expected to read what's been on that website. And when we talk about hearing from the people, it has to be through an official channel such as that. And I also feel that it's critical to build relationships management and council and some staff. And what I really think we have to remember is people in all their positions have the education, have the training, have the experience, and we need to trust their judgment and trust them to do a good job. We have to remember, we're all here. We all live here, we work here, we play here. We have to trust each other, and I think that's critical in building relationships, and that's what I would do as your mayor.
Thank you. Jeff Huska.
I've worked in the public sector for the last 32 years, and quite honestly, I've worked for you. If you've shown up at the hospital, I've had to deal with you many times. And being a good leader is being a good communicator and knowing when and where to say yes and no. I'm honest, I'm hardworking, and I'm not someone who sells out the people around me when I make the wrong decision. I give credit where credit is due. I'm empathetic, and I know where point A and point B are, and I know how to go from point A and point B. I'm willing to admit what I don't know, and I can be quite direct. One of the things about our council meetings that are taking place right now, and I'm not completely sure of the legalities of it, so if someone's going to ask me later, but I'd quite honestly like to see councillors get a time frame to speak like we get when we're here at your debates. My Lord, I have to tell you, I thought I was winded sometimes, but they can go on and on and on, and like sometimes around this table, the meaning of the questions or the issues get lost. So that's one of the things that I'd like to see mandated into our new council, is that there is some type of time frame to allow decorum between each other and with the mayor and with staff and with you, the public. Thank you.
Thank you. One of the questions that keeps coming up is the downtown feels neglected, the outlying communities feel neglected in favor of the downtown, and this mythical rift seems to be getting wider. How would you correct this situation? Let's start with Cody.
So one thing I'd like to do, we've seen the downtown, there's been some work on the community improvement plan down here. We've also seen that happen in Caperell, and I believe the next one is happening in Chelmsford, if I'm not mistaken. So I think the community improvement plans are a great way that we can involve neighbors, citizens in each area of the city, allow them to have input into what projects are happening in their neighborhoods, and then what we need to do moving forward is attach an economic growth piece to that. So it's great to put up planter pots and ornamental light fixtures, but I think there's got to be an economic growth piece to that. I think if at the end of every year, at the end of every 4 years, if every neighborhood, every community feels like they're getting a piece of the pie and they're seeing investment in their neighborhood, we can end some of that divide. We can move every community forward and be a lot stronger at the end of a 4-year term. Thank you.
Thank you. Dan Melanson.
What we have in the city of Greater Sudbury is a partnership. And in all the business partnerships I've been in over the last 40 years being in business, if one party in the partnership feels that they are not getting their fair share, you have a rift that develops. And that's what we have here right now. We have the outlying communities who feel that they have lost at the gain of the downtown, and we have done nothing to waylay that notion. And I think it's high time that we go back and take a look at the report that Floyd Logren did for the Constellation report. and identify the things that were back then valid and still are, that need to be addressed. They were never addressed. And if we had addressed them, I believe, 20 years ago when this report was done, we wouldn't be talking about this RIF right now. So it's never too late to make a situation right. And I think what we need to do is we need to recognize the contributions that the outlying communities make to Sudbury and bring to Sudbury and bring to the partnership, and what the downtown core brings to the outlying communities, because it's a two-way street. It has to be a win-win and a give and take on both sides, and I think we can do that. I think there's ways to appease the feeling that they're getting a raw deal when they really aren't as bad as it seems, because they've been ignored. So I think there are things that can be done, and I would undertake to implement some of the findings of the Constellation report so that we could start to fill that riff in bridges between the outlying communities and the downtown core to the benefit of all of Sudbury. Thank you.
Jeff Huska.
Actually, over the last 4 years, I've been very fortunate to sit on a few advisory panels for the city of Greater Sudbury. And one thing I realized that no one person has the answer for anything. And as chair or co-chair of the Greater Sudbury Market Advisory Panel, we've taken something that's gone, which was actually hurting quite a bit, and we far succeeded anything that we thought we could ever imagine in the 4 years that we ran it. Having said that, that only happened because we've encompassed people from the outlying areas, more so the producers in the farming industry, and we've included them in all the decision-making processes that went along. What I would suggest is I would take a representative from each of the outlying downtowns. They all still have their downtowns, and incorporate a group of them with some people from here, with some city staff, and work collaboratively to bring the appeal and the grandeur to every area in Greater Sudbury, not just this downtown core. When you look around what happens throughout the year, whether it be Rayside Balfour Days, Valley Days, down here with the Rib Fest and everything else, there's an awful lot that goes down in the downtown that information should be able to be linked back and forth, and there'd be, I'm sure, far more greater ideas of what could actually be going on in each of the outlying downtowns, including this one here. So that's what I would do. I would include all those downtowns represented from there, with some from here and city staff, and work at promoting and growing that type of partnership. Thank you.
Thank you. Patricia?
There's more than one Main Street in Greater Sudbury. Each of the communities with their own uniqueness that adds to our whole fiber of what Greater Sudbury is, has a uniqueness about it. When I was in Dowling, they don't have a restaurant. They would love a restaurant, something that we take for granted in downtown Sudbury. So I guess when they look down here, it seems like the core of Sudbury has everything. But when you look in the core of Sudbury, when you're here, you realize that our downtown is so neglected, so sorely neglected as like the hub of Northern Ontario. So to try and bring all that together, I think we need to have Main Street revitalizing plans for each of the main centers throughout the region, every single community. Each of the wards should have an infrastructure project that we champion, something that we have crumbling infrastructure everywhere. They care about their swimming pools and their arenas, and we need to make sure that they have quick access to that. And a lot of this won't cost a lot of money, but they need to feel that we share the wealth. And I think that they in turn will appreciate us a lot more. We can't turn back the clock of time. We have 20 years under amalgamation, and if anything, the recent projects that have been announced by the mayor of this city have divided us even further. We're to the point where people are saying, I don't care how much it costs, as long as it doesn't go in downtown Sudbury, and I think that is a travesty. So I think to bring everyone together, we have to treat everyone with the same respect. They all have main streets, let's look after them. And I think that will enhance what we have here in downtown Sudbury and promote each other's uniqueness and best qualities, our best qualities. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Bigger.
repeat the question again?
Sorry, I changed pages here. So the downtown feels neglected. The outlying communities feel neglected in favor of the downtown, and this mythical rift seems to be getting wider. How would you correct this situation?
Well, we've already begun correcting the situation. As many of the candidates spoke about, we have a community improvement program, and there's been a program for many years, but the cap on that was $250,000. We increased the limits for the downtown, and in return we got $38 million in private funds to do upgrades in the downtown. The incentive part, on the taxpayers' part, was $3 million. Seeing the success of this program, we immediately extended the CIP programs for downtowns across the entire community. So we have a roads and corridors program, we have a downtowns and Main Street programs across the community, and we began investing. So where the town of Caperall is finally has finally seen improvements to their waterfront, it was as a result of a large part of the $1.8 million that we just provided to Caperall to upgrade their waterfront. Now, we're providing funding to Chelmsford on the Whitson Trail, similar kind of project. So phase one of improving these downtown and Main Street cores across our entire community is improving leisure facilities. So Whitson Trail, the Caperall waterfront, and they're great examples of communities working together with a vision, but the funding has to come from somewhere. Phase two is the CIP program, where we provide incentives to the people and the business owners in downtown Caperall, downtown Chelmsford, Main Street, any other, another community and neighborhood in Greater Sudbury. And so that CIP program is now available to all of those communities. And phase three is an improvement to the transit system. And we've advocated very strongly, I've advocated very strongly and gotten funding to improve the transit system. Now the transit system improvements are intended to increase the frequencies and increase the residents' ability to get to their main street within their community. So rather than just having a city bus that does one loop through Caperall, we would have a dedicated bus that would perhaps do something like a figure eight in Caperall, circling through the downtown at high frequency. But that's how you get people to begin to want to use services and to become loyal to the businesses in their main street that they identify with. So Caperall, Chelmsford are great examples, and we're continuing on with other programs because we've set the base. So, that's all about a lot of the programs outside of the core. The $38 million response for the downtown was a great success, but we're committed as a council to continuing to move forward with the downtown master plan. So what I heard 4 years ago was, we've got a plan, but no money put towards it. So we moved forward with the Elgin Greenway project. We've moved forward with the Brady Street Green Stairs. We're moving forward with, and we've invested $10 million in Tom Davies Square. We are continuing to invest in the downtown and trying to improve in the downtown core. And those are just some of the investments that we've been making over the last 4 years. So, when I talk about partnerships that we have to make our downtown cores better, one thing that downtown Sudbury needs is stronger partnerships, like the partnership that we've developed with the Canadian Mental Health Association by providing the off-the-street programs, harm reduction programs, and transitional housing programs, and additional transitional housing for up to 34 people. These are things that we need to help people with mental wellness and addiction problems in our downtown and make our downtown feel safer and more inviting to people, Sudburyans and visitors alike.
Thank you. Bill, Crumplin.
Well, I think it's time to put the cart behind the horse. As I'm listening, I'm thinking, we're doing things backwards. We're still downtown Sudbury centric. And I'm not saying that's wrong, but if you're in the outlying community and your perception is you're getting the short end of the stick, that's also your reality. And I think one way to try to address this would be to have council meetings actually move. Maybe every third meeting or so, it moves out into one of the other communities. And council does that together with senior management in a bus. And they go to Capreol, they go to Garson, they go to Dowling, and they actually see what's going on in those communities. I don't know if councillors from the core have actually been to Capreol or have been to Garson. And I think this would be a really important thing for us to do so that we get a feel, a real feel for what's going on in some of those other communities. Yeah. I think that's what I would, that's the first thing I would champion, because I want us to not just have representatives come from the outlying area to downtown. It's time for us to move out to them and to feel what they're feeling and understand their perceptions, because again, their perception is their reality. And we haven't solved that in the last 20 years by trying to have people from the outlying areas come to downtown. We can only respect what they're going through, what they're experiencing, if we go out there and meet with them there. Thank you.
Thank you. Large street overpass, underpass, however you want. CP, the provincial government, and the federal government have all said they would provide financial support if the city supports the large street overpass. As the mayor, would you champion or promote the large street overpass to provide closer parking for downtown? Patricia.
No, not to catch your eye anymore after this one, okay? I would have to get more information about that.
Okay.
For sure, I don't have enough information, so it wouldn't be fair for me to make a comment about that.
Well, the question is, would you champion something like that if it was feasible and reasonable?
Absolutely.
So that's the question, really.
Absolutely, I would, yeah.
Yeah.
But it would have to be feasible, okay?
Okay. Absolutely.
All right, thank you.
Dan, just go down the line on this one.
Yeah, depending on what the costs were, what was involved with it, it seems like a reasonable idea to provide some additional acreage that could be utilized for downtown core purposes. I mean, there are some properties over there next to the Lexington and in that area that could potentially benefit from having a direct connection to the other side of the track. So yeah, depending on the cost and the rest of it, yeah, I'd look at that for sure.
Jeff.
I agree. I see it as a good idea based on the fact that I'd like to know the cost and the time frame that they'd want to do this in. If you bundle it with what's going on in the city already or what's planned for the city already, I think that would be a long-term goal, not something that we'd see in the near future. But the last thing I need to do or would want to do is burden taxpayers with an overabundance amount of money that they got to spend with everything else that's going on. But for cost-wise and feasibility and time frame, sure, I think that would be a fantastic idea.
Thank you. Bill.
I worry about the cost, and to be honest, this is the first time I've heard about this particular project. I don't know why we're fixated on moving cars all the time, because really what we want to do is move people. So I envision a different sort of solution to this. We could have a people mover enclosed that would be far less expensive, and all we're doing is moving the people. We don't need to have more cars downtown. The cars can stay in the other areas, but it's moving. We have to think differently about how we're actually going to move people. And that would have an impact on the environment as well. Fewer cars are better for the environment. Thank you.
Cody Cacciotti.
It's definitely something I'd be willing to look at. I think if we're trying to draw people from all over the city into the downtown core, especially from the outlying areas, right now the reality is that most people are driving cars. Whether or not we want to champion our public transit, it'd be great if everybody was using the bus, but right now we are a very car-centric society. So I think anything that helps facilitate moving people into the downtown core definitely deserves a look. If the costs, if the benefits and everything else work, then I think it's something we look at moving forward with. But I definitely think you have to start with that conversation.
Thank you very much. So I have met with the BIA and with CP, and with the federal government representatives. And from my recall, the connection to Elgin Street is actually closer to Cedar. So it's a walk from the corner of Cedar to the corner of Elm. When that proposal was somewhere in the range of $3 million, I thought, okay, $3 million, let's try to understand this opportunity a little bit more. The opportunity evolved into a $7 million pedestrian overpass with elevators and fully accessible to save that one block of walking. And then, of course, if you're having people park at Energy Court, improvements to and development of a parking lot is about $35,000 per space. If you were to create 300 spaces, that would be about $10 million. So we're talking somewhere in the range, maybe of $15 million to $17 million to save people from walking the length of a block from Elm to Cedar. And so we have done analysis of parking in the downtown. We'll continue to analyze and look for solutions. I think there are lower cost solutions in the downtown that we can take advantage of before that particular project. But I'm very interested if somebody comes up with a better solution or a hybrid of that that is less costly. Okay.
Thank you. Mayor Baker, I might have missed something in your explanation. You'd say it would cost $10 million plus to build a parking lot, or?
So at $35,000 per space.
But that's an enclosed parking lot. If we were just to leave the field and then have a parking lot in the field, is that what it would cost anyways?
So if it was, okay, even at $25,000 per parking spot, because those are the costs for development of parking. However, the idea is a $7 million pedestrian crosswalk over the tracks.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Another question came up as well is it seems to take years to have things done for the downtown. Bike racks took a long time to approve and install. Downtown benches, the Elgin Greenway's taken time. How would you ensure that decisions get made and action take place in a timely fashion, months rather than years? Let's start with Jeff.
Thank you. Again, we need to look at the red tape that's happening at City Hall. Thank you very much. That red tape is prohibiting a lot of things from moving forward, whether it be permits, etc. It's just not happening. And if we truly are open for business, when projects like the Elgin Street Greenway comes along, the city should be doing everything in its power to move it forward. I don't know why they're choosing to delay it, maybe because they think it's a city-run project or whatever, but you know what? Anything that beautifies the downtown, anything that brings people back to the downtown is something that the city needs to work at. Again, the red tape at the Development Corporation and the city needs to be cut. And when that happens, I think you'll find a lot more things happening down here and happening on time. Thank you.
Thank you. Dan.
It's called the Business Improvement Association, right? Well, perhaps maybe what the city should be doing is dealing directly with the BIA and saying, what do you want? And let's make it happen, as opposed to talking it to death and stacking it up behind chickens.
Back to chickens, are we? Bill.
I'm a little puzzled why these sorts of things take a long time, particularly something like bike racks and benches. That is just beyond my comprehension. Even something like the Elgin Greenway. I remember when I attended, it was in 2012, a presentation about what the Greenway was going to be, and it looked pretty cool, and it's not happened. I actually don't know if it's the lack of money or the fact that we've had to channel money from one project to another because we can't do it all at once. So something big like the Elgin Greenway, I suppose it has to be staged, but I think when we come up with these plans, we have to have a firm beginning date for something and a firm end date. For smaller projects like the bike racks and benches and what have you, I am just dumbfounded that that takes so long. Maybe once I'm in the mayor's office, someone can explain that to me, but it just doesn't seem to make any sense.
Thank you. Mayor Bigger?
So I'm not sure exactly what the concern is about bike racks. I don't understand what the problem would be with bike racks.
They took 3 years to be built. They took 3 years for us to find the locations and put them in downtown. Susan can tell you that.
So this is a
Sorry.
But the city didn't want to pay for them there. The city didn't
So
want
it's
to
a BIA project, and the BIA charges a surcharge to all of the businesses within the business area, and the funds are collected for improvements to the community that are over and above the services that are provided to all of the other residents in our community. And so that's what the funds are used for. So it was a BIA project, not a Greater Sudbury Development Corporation red tape project. And so I don't understand why it would take 3 years, but I believe that it shouldn't take that long to approve bike racks, and I would think that they should easily be installed at any point in time. So decisions, have been made in reasonable amounts of time. There was a question about the Elgin Greenway. So the Elgin Greenway proposal was one of the first things that as a council we asked for the Elgin Greenway to come forward and show us what it should look like and how much it would cost. And so the cost was far greater than anyone expected, and so we've sent it back to staff. So we're in a process where staff are coming back with a review of that cost of the Elgin Greenway. Now, I believe the cost was as high as $7.5 million, and so we're looking now at a project that will be closer to $3.7 million. Obviously, there have to be changes in design. So this is something where council is trying to still move a project forward, but not spend, perhaps double what we expected it to cost.
Cody. After reading, make sure you get the same wording. It had to do with how quickly things get done. It took forever to get the benches in place, and the bike racks and the greenway. How would you ensure that these things are started and done in months rather than in years?
Yeah, I think the first thing we definitely have to look at, whoever our next leadership is at the City of Greater Sudbury, making sure that we're operating at the speed of business, making sure that we're serving our customers. Whether it's a building permit, whether it's the installation of a bike rack, whether it's the planting of a tree, whether we're making sure our flowers are getting planted before the end of August, I think we really need to make sure that we're setting our priorities at the beginning of each and every year and making sure we're following through on them in a timely manner.
Thank you. Jeff, do you answer that? Have you answered already? I'm sorry, yeah.
I did, but can I ask a question?
You can afterwards. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't realize.
Patricia first here.
Jeff, you're gonna have to wait.
Sorry.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
I'm here like, okay, so 8.5 years ago, I was asked to sit on a committee called the Walk of Fame Committee, and I was running 3 businesses at the time and 4 events at the time across Northern Ontario. I had 3 children, 2 in school, and I was a very busy woman. But I did this because I care about our community. I spent 2.5 years talking about a Walk of Fame. And that coincides with this lovely document called the Downtown Sudbury, A Plan for the Future, Going Downtown, and that was in 2010. So when I talk to members of the BIA, I'm dismayed and alarmed at the amount of false starts that have happened and the excuses. It's not about 3 million here and 7 million there. It was a really thought out, well-developed plan with a lot of input and expertise. And yet, We have no problem saying $300 to $400 million to build infrastructure that we collectively didn't ask for. I struggle with that. I truly do. This is our downtown, and yet we could not implement this plan, which all told wouldn't have cost a quarter of that if we had done it at the time. Sorry.
Thank you. Does anyone answer that question? I will entertain questions from the audience at this point. Anyone? I do have one.
Okay, we've been talking about parking. Oh, sorry. Parking is an issue downtown. A lot of people might think that's not the case, but let me tell you, working in 2 stores in the downtown area, parking is a major issue. We are about to lose 50 spots behind Place des Arts and another 100 short. And another 100 spots down further. Anyway, it is, and we've been talking to the city for a long time about this. For the past 10 years, for the past 12 years, I've been on the board for the BIA. We have been discussing parking and we've been giving encouragement. Yes, we're looking into it, We have funds set aside for it. The funds that were set aside for it were spent in City Hall to fix their parking lot, not ours. We are in desperate need of parking. We have people coming to our stores on a daily basis telling us they cannot find a place to park. And this morning, I was in my store at 9 o'clock this morning. There was not a parking space all the way up and down Durham. Everything was taken. And our customers are going away and are going to New Sudbury Shopping Center, and we're still to the Millennium Center. So what are you going to do about solving this problem quickly, because we are not going to survive without parking?
Thank you. Let's start with Dan.
Well, one thing that we could do is ensure that any developments that take place include a parkade. I mean, we obviously don't have enough ground level parking, so if somebody wants to do some development down here, then it should be a couple of layers or a couple of floors of parking, either on top or below the ground for any developments. I mean, I understand it's more costly to build vertical parking lots, but you know, if the understanding is that if you want to develop a major project downtown, that you can't suffice on what's already there. You have to have a parking element that's going to take care of that need that you're building for, plus an extra on top, so we can get ahead of the shortage of parking for downtown. So I think it's a function of insisting that parking is directly linked to some sort of parking facility as part of that project.
Thank you. Patricia?
I believe that we have to make it one of our priorities for the revitalization of downtown. People need a place to park. And I know I worked here for 25 years on Elgin Street, and we used to have what we call the meter man rush every morning around 10:15 out the building because we had nowhere to park, right? So I get it. I think that we should have a parking tower, absolutely, in the downtown area. And that will actually free up some street space so we could have it more walking and more greenery around as well. But I think it has to be a priority. We need to finally do something that's going to increase business and increase people to walk downtown and be downtown. And it goes hand in hand with housing downtown. Get more people to live there, and that way you'll attract more businesses. And you have to make it attractive, but you need to be able to park as well, and I agree with you.
Thank you. Any questions? Jeff, you had a question?
Yeah. Sorry. The event center decision came down. Let's go over here. The event center decision was a 6-6 tie. The vote to put it on the Kingsway came after that, and it was based on the original 6-6 tie in a very divided community. Had the vote been structured in a different way, it could have very well ended up downtown with a 6-6 tie for the Kingsway and then a vote for the downtown. Do you think that a vote on the most expensive piece of infrastructure the greater city of Sudbury has ever seen should come down to something that tight. If you were mayor, what would you do to make sure you had actual consensus before you did something like that?
Thank you. Let's start with Cody.
So I'm not allowed to address the parking situation then?
Do you want to address the parking issue first? Okay.
With the event center, I believe for me that initial vote has definitely been a point of contention for me. I feel something of that magnitude. I would have loved to see both options on a single ballot and have councillors choosing their site of choice. I definitely also did not like the fact that there was an impromptu recess between the two votes. I feel like that should have definitely been kept wide open, and that should have all gone ahead without the break. For me, Jeff, the big thing would have been making sure those two items were on a single ballot. Have the councillor choose their site of preference and move forward after that.
Thank you, Bill.
I tend to agree. I think that the process that night was flawed. And the process, I feel, was such that we ended up with the decision we did. I think it was, shall I say, orchestrated. I would not run that. I would not, as mayor, have that process run the way it did. I'm not sure what I would do, but I do feel that something as big as this might have been best handled by some kind of a referendum and have all the citizens in Sudbury participate in it. It might have taken a bit of time to come up with proper wording, but this is huge, and it's not just our taxes, the people sitting here, but it's going to be our kids and our grandkids who end up paying for this. And I just think the process could have been better, and I would have liked to have seen it as a referendum. Thank you.
Thank you. Jeff.
That night, I was present that night, and I have to say that the optics of the entire evening were cloudy. Right from the onset, when they had the list of names of places where the arena could be located, there was no explanation in how that order was even, how it came to be. So quite frankly, how Sudbury, Elgin Street became choice 1, how the Kingsway became choice 2, how over here beside the old Crescent Hotel became choice 3, etc. None of that was explained to anybody. And to be quite honest with you, watching council that night, I really got the impression that a lot of them didn't understand the entire process. I'm not saying they did or didn't. I'm saying looking at them that night, they didn't seem to have a full grasp that once that tie happened on the very first vote, that the Sudbury Arena location on Elgin Street was no longer going to be a viable option moving forward. I think all that information should have been laid out to every single councillor and to those present prior to that vote. There should have been no look of bewilderment in council when they realized that option was gone. Regarding a referendum, if I could just speak about that for a second, Jerry. Under the Municipal Act, if you're going to have a referendum, there has to be a certain time frame that has to take place in to actually put in for the referendum. Council knew well ahead of time that this was going to be a heated discussion and a heated debate, and I really do think they missed out the boat when they had the opportunity to have that put in place prior to that election.
Thank you. Dan.
The whole, anybody who's watched any number of council meetings, yeah, I can't count the number of times where a vote has come up and either the city clerk or someone has to say, after hours of back and forth on a particular issue, now, if you vote yes, this is what it means, and if you vote no, this is what it means. Because the whole process has been so confusing that people aren't sure whether they're voting yes and meaning no, or voting no and meaning yes for something. And that's basically what happened at that particular meeting. There was confusion and proper process was not carried out. There was, it was a confusing mishmash, and we ended up with I believe, a flawed decision. It should have gone much more smoothly. There should have been a lot more clarity with regards to how it, what the implications of the vote one way or the other would have been. And that's what you get when you don't have a properly chaired meeting. It's not having clarity. There's none of that proper procedural when you're running a board meeting or a council meeting. And that falls squarely on the chair's, the chair of the meeting's responsibility to provide that level of clarity so that when people are voting, they know what they're voting for and what the implications and ramifications are of that particular vote.
Thank you. Patricia.
I believe that the decision made that night was a bad financial decision for the city of Greater Sudbury. And what alarms me just as equally as much as that bad decision is that you had a developer who went to and had 92 meetings across the city. He had a brilliant plan. And he met with a lot of constituents throughout the whole region of Greater Sudbury. And everyone who attended his meetings believed that he was going to get a loan backed up by the city and he was going to be participating financially in this wonderful new vision for Greater Sudbury. And so did councillors around that table. No time did anyone go back to all those people who attended those meetings and tell them that the financial arrangements for these big developments had changed and now it's going to be a tax burden on the citizens of Greater Sudbury. So it wasn't transparent. The process wasn't open from day one. And this community has not only been divided, I think it's been divided more than when we amalgamated. And the wounds are very deep, and it's going to take us a long time to rebuild trust in this community. But we can do it, and we will do it. And what I'm going to do when I'm elected mayor is that we will have an annual report card on all developments so that everybody can see from A to Z the process, how we got there, and what it means to everybody. There will be no obscurity. There won't be a hypothesis, $100 million. The actual cost for everything will be outlined, and people will have a say. Thank you.
So based on the comments, before Mayor Bigler speak, I hear from everyone that it's not the place that the arena is going to go through. It's the problem is that you feel that the process was flawed. That's what I heard from everyone. Mayor Bigler, would you like to comment on that?
Thanks. Thank you for the question. So what I'll say is that right off the get-go, we changed our process to distribute council agendas 1 week earlier, to make them available to the public 1 week earlier than they had been ever previously by a city council. The other thing, so they were available for public review, as well as council review. The other thing I'll say is that we have provided all of the information on the city's website all along, and all of that information, whether it's the cost of the event center, the recommendations to have a design-build approach, because it would fit the requirements of not having the risk to the taxpayers, that the design-build contractor would design and build within the cost parameters that we set out. But as far as the vote goes, it was a democratic process following our procedures bylaws. So not every mayor in every municipality votes on every vote. I do, I vote. But when you look at the vote, one councillor abstained, he had a conflict of interest, and there were 12 duly elected representatives of the citizens from all 12 wards across the city. Okay? 11 of them were eligible to vote. The vote was on the recommendation of the consultant that we hired, who's been involved in 20 plus event centers being developed across Canada. And his recommendation on scoring was that the downtown location had a higher score for, after considering a number of variables that were available to all of the public and council to understand for quite some time. And his recommendation was the downtown by a slight margin over the Kingsway. So if you look at the councillors' vote, the councillors voted 6 against the downtown, knowing that the next question was for the Kingsway. There were only 2 locations. So 6 voted against and 5 voted for. So yes, I put my hand up. That probably confused things by it looking like a tie, but as far as your duly elected ward councillors, their vote was 6-5 for the Kingsway. And that was apparent in the first vote. The reason the downtown was first was because that was the recommended location by our consultant. So knowing that 6 councillors were in favor of the Kingsway location, I had to decide, do I make it a tie, force a tie, and we have no event center? Or do I vote?
And try again, yeah.
Because 60% of our citizens do want an event center. So I voted again, but I voted in favor of building an event center for our community and moving forward. And so it's something that's been on the list for many, many years, and a thing that much of the citizens in our community have been asking for many, many years. And it failed by 1 vote in John Rodriguez's term. Okay, but this was the 3rd time. This is the 3rd time that an event center of some sort was brought forward to council. We are able to build it this time. Okay, it's because of our ability to work together and understand the process. And it's a very clear process. And once people are would like to hold the chair accountable for the vote, well, the vote was a democratic process by your duly elected councillors for the Kingsway. And that's why, as chair and head of council, after a council has voted and made a decision, that I will stand up and I will support that decision, because we make many, many decisions over the term of 4 years, and we've made many decisions. We've moved forward with a lot of the projects in the downtown master plan. We continue to invest in our community, and it's something that I feel very strongly about, honoring and respecting a duly elected officials, representatives of the citizens, and the democratic process that we have set out. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Excuse me, Jerry. I just want to correct you, if I could, for a second, on a statement you made. I think I heard you correctly saying that all of us were more in disagreement with the process, not the location.
You're questioning the process.
Yeah, just so you're aware, though, I'm not in favor of the location, so I just want to make sure
There's
that's
2
clear.
here. Sorry about that. I should not do that, right?
Stick with the question, because I know I answered the question you asked, and then you came up with a different interpretation.
Sorry.
So I'm not in favor of the Kingsway, and I think we can redevelop our current arena and have it serve a number of issues. And just all we have to do is look at the Maple Leaf Gardens and see what they've done there. That's my feeling.
And
So the difference was-
more than 50% of the people do not want to pay for it with taxpayers' dollars, because that's not what they thought they were getting.
So this is the follow-up question, if it's right in here. The follow-up question is, the bottom line, yes or no? Are you for or against going forward with the KED? The Kingsway Entertainment, yes or no?
I am not for paying for anything with taxpayers' dollars without a thorough understanding of what we're paying for. Whether it's...
Is that a yes or no?
That's my answer.
Okay, thank you. Dan?
You're not going to get a yes or no on this one. Development, yes. Who pays for it? That's the question. And I don't believe that the taxpayers, like Patricia said, and some of the others on the running here have said, this should not be paid for by the taxpayers. If it's a private public partnership or a private development, go for it.
Thank you. That's the longest yes/no answers I've gotten so far. Right? Jeff? And by the way, Jeff, I apologize for putting you down.
That's okay.
No, it's
I
good.
wasn't
No.
sure, and I wanted to make sure.
Yeah.
Well, it's too hard to get out of
I am not in favor of the KED project. I've always said I think it believes downtown. We have a master downtown plan. It states that we revitalize our downtown, and I'm fully for that.
Thank you. Bill, once again, I apologize to you as well.
Thank you. And despite the fact I'm an academic and I can go on for an hour and 20 minutes once I start, my answer to your question is quite simply no.
Thank you. Wow, that was great. Cody.
For me, before making any decision moving forward in either direction, I would like to see the LPAT process play out. I think it's important that if we are going to make a smart decision for this community, we need to make an informed decision. We've been doing a lot of door knocking in the community. There are still a great number of people who want to see the KED move forward. Whether or not that makes it a good idea is yet to be seen. I would like to see the results of the LPAT before making a decision either way, and I do think we need to review who's paying for this project at the end of the day.
Thank you. Mayor Baker.
Yes, I'm in favor of the Kingsway, the event center on the Kingsway. And to the point about who's paying for it, what people should understand is that, theater centers, event centers are not profit generators, okay? They don't generate vast amounts of income. That's why municipalities exist, is to deliver services that private sector doesn't deliver, okay? The replacement of this arena is replacement of a 70-year-old asset, okay? We're replacing assets all of the time, and the Maple Leaf Gardens was turned into a grocery store and a small skating rink.
Mayor Baker, just a comment here for everyone.
You had an option.
I'm sorry, Dan, no, it's okay. Mayor Baker, just a comment here from someone. You said all the information about the KED is on the city's website. The link for the letter of intent by the casino leads to a news release. The link for the letter of interest from Hilton Hotels is still there, and they have categorically said that they are not in. So just to let you know.
If I can respond to that. So the Hilton Hotels is the franchisor. They're the name brand that a franchisee would put on their building. The franchisor is not building. Yes, the franchisor will not spend the money to construct a hotel. It's the franchisee. That's normal in any franchise arrangement. Okay, and so there was some misinformation there.
Another question, qui de vous est bilingue, parle, écrit, comprend le français? Je vois que vous parlez tous en anglais. Merci. So, does anyone bilingual on the book? Building Premier? Cody?
Je peux essayer de répondre à ton question, si tu veux.
Absolument. Veux-tu répondre?
Je peux parler en français. La grammaire n'est pas très bien, mais je vais essayer. Je peux écrire. J'ai étudié en français au niveau du 12e année.
Merci. Okay. Hope that satisfies whoever's answered the question. Let's start with Patricia. What is your vision of the city over the next 4 years? What's it going to look like after 4 years? Let's put it that way.
The downtown is going to be cleaner, that's for sure. We're going to have ample parking. We're going to have new businesses. We're going to have more young people here. We're going to have an innovation center. So the GSU has an innovation room, and that's where they're meeting to come up with new innovations. NORCAT has an innovation center. Laurentian University now has the Cliff Fielding Center and fantastic facilities. We need a place for young people to go and come up with new ideas and come up with new ideas for businesses. I think we need to have more incentive programs like a young lady just recently won a storefront for a year. I think that's a brilliant idea. I think we need to do more of that. I like to have more walkability in downtown. And we're just talking about downtown now, right? I'd like to have, if I had a wish, some sort of program where you could actually, the facade for all of the businesses would be really historic to our time, including our arena. And why not do that? I'm from Newfoundland. Has anyone ever been to Jelly Bean Row in St. John's? It's stunning. People go there from all over the world. You know, there's so much we can do with imagination, with more people involved in it, and let's involve our citizens. More importantly, let's listen to them. You know, why hire consultants if we're not going to listen to them? Why have people sitting on committees who are very busy if you're not going to listen to them? This is our community. And I have a question for you, Mayor Bigger. Who made the decision that taxpayers would fund this project 100%?
I'm sorry, that's not the question.
Oh, okay. Another time.
Dan?
I'd like to know.
A vision for the city, what's it going to look like in 4 years?
Well, as it pertains to the downtown, I think I agree with Patricia, to be cleaner. We would be embracing to a greater extent some of the arts festivals that we already have in place, like the Up Here Festival. I did the art walkabout with one of the guides and a group of people this year, and I was very surprised to learn that there were people from South America and from Germany in that small group that I was with who had specifically come to Sudbury to view the murals. And that floored me, because I had no idea that it had that level of impact. So, you know, I would see us expanding on those types of things to start that, as I was saying earlier, that nucleus that could build create a critical mass that would take on a life of its own, and like I say, that's quite affordable to do. The other thing that I would like to see is I would like to see the downtown and the surrounding communities come together as one city and support each other, so that we don't have this us and them mentality between the downtown and the surrounding areas. I think that's a very healthy thing for the city and something that we need to do in order to move the city as a whole forward. The other thing that I would like to see in 4 years is a new direction in economic development that is focused on industries that currently aren't located here or are underrepresented here, and that could be brought in here quite easily. And there's a number of multinationals who are looking for links in their supply chain that Sudbury already has a lot to offer for them, and it's just a function of us reaching out through a revitalized Greater Sudbury Development Corporation that's charged with focusing on those new opportunities, as opposed to doing the same old over and over again.
Thank you. Jeff?
My vision for the downtown over the next 4 years is actually quite vibrant. I think that the city should be creating synergies and partnerships with our local developers, offering them incentives to actually start putting great accommodations in downtown Sudbury. You want to rejuvenate your downtown, any downtown, get people living here. I believe it to be a lot more cleaner in 4 years. I believe it's not just a city that is starting to realize the importance of cleaning up our downtown. I think the people that work here and the people that visit here all have the same mindset that we have to work together to have that happen. I really do think, in my vision of the next 4 years, there's going to be an arena right down the street. And if we're out in time, we'll see the Wolves play. But I really do think that having that type of facility downtown only helps extrapolate the success of all the other businesses around it. There may not be an event going on every night, but when it's places like the Fromagerie and whatnot that are unique unto itself, that is why people like to come to the downtown. It's this uniqueness. This is not the chain store meal that you're getting when you come here. You have character, you know the staff. That's what culture in downtown is, what's important, and that's what will make this community continue to grow.
Thank you. Bill Crumplin.
Was the question not about Sudbury in general, or was it just focused on the...
It could be Sudbury in general. But what's your vision of the city in 4 years' time? Yeah.
You changed it again.
I know. I'll allow it. We'll come back to your position if you want. Because everybody's, except for Patricia, everybody commented about everything, so...
Yeah, I thought it was...
No,
Yeah.
I talked about
That's
it.
okay. Go ahead.
Okay, anyhow, I think one of the things that I would like 4 years from now is for citizens to say, you know, that council with Crumplin as mayor was the most open and transparent and honest council we've had in 20 years. That would be my #1 goal for Sudbury. It's not bricks and mortar. It's got to do with being open, transparent, and building trust and respect. And that's what I would like to see. Now, in terms of specific projects, I think that there are so many ideas, and my colleagues up here have many that they've shared over the last, it feels like it's been 6 months that we've been together over time, and there's a lot of good ideas, and when I'm mayor, I'm going to work with all of these guys and our woman to put these ideas in place. But one thing that I like, I've been quoted in the paper of saying that I want to just talk to CP about moving the rail yard, and I do. It's not meaning that I'm going to, have it moved. It's a big project. It could solve a lot of planning problems. But in the meantime, why don't we build a sound barrier along the railway track? And you know what? That could be a fantastic canvas for up here. And we could have a fabulous mural done all the way along. And maybe that would be good enough. Maybe we wouldn't have to move the railway. But I would really like to see it moved. And I want us to realize that we've got a great lifestyle here. I'm here because I love the lifestyle. I have students who want to stay because they love the lifestyle. We need to make this community open and welcoming and transparent and accommodating people. And that's really what I see for this city 4 years from now, when I'm your mayor.
Thank you. Cody.
Okay, so for the city as a whole, I'd like to see Greater Sudbury as the true leader of Northern Ontario. I'd like to see us position ourselves that way, and I'd like to see us act that way. I think we need to be ready to be primed for new investment. We need to be creating jobs. We need someone who's going to proactively go out and search for new opportunities, making sure that our youth are staying here and that they're ready for employment when they graduate from our 3 post-secondary institutions. I think we can work closely with them to make sure that the programs they are offering reflect the needs of our workforce and the industries we're looking to trumpet here. As far as the downtown goes, I'd love to see a vibrant downtown. I'd definitely love to see a cleaner downtown, one where everybody feels safe. I'd love to see it flush with development, both commercial and residential, making sure that we've got an active presence in the downtown all around the clock. I'd love to see us look at creating partnerships, both big and small, whether it's potentially looking at the classic cruisers and bringing the car shows downtown on Sunday nights. Or something much bigger that's going to have a bigger footprint in the downtown core. If we are going to set up the downtown core as an arts and culture hub, then I would love to see a collaborative approach to that as well, making sure we're talking to arts and culture groups and communities within the city to make sure that we're meeting the needs of their organizations so that we're not providing bailouts and ensuring that these organizations are sustainable. The city as a whole, I'd love to make sure that every ward, every small town feels like they've gotten a part of the pie at the end of 1 year or 4 years, and ensure that we're investing diligently in all communities across our city.
Thank you. Mayor Bigger?
What I see is us continuing to invest in all of the communities across Sudbury, and I do see the importance of arts and culture and how arts and culture across our community and working with the groups outside of the downtown core can absolutely bring us together in a strong way. And so I see that opportunity for the downtown. Now, everybody is down on the downtown, it seems, on this panel, but I think when you do a art crawl and you see the 26 or more studios that are on downtown on Durham Street, and you see all of the things that are happening. You've got the Indie Cinema, you've got the School of Architecture, you've got the Fromagerie, you'll have La Place des Arts. You've got the Parkside Center, the YMCA, St. Andrew's Place, all of the businesses developing their own individual programming. You'll have a brand new art gallery, a brand new library, a completed Elgin Greenway. These are all the things that you've been asking for, and it's all about the levels of programming. The Tom Davis Square courtyard will be completed this year. It will be a fabulous public place for many ceremonies and activities once completed at the end of this year. And so we've got things moving in the right direction. And I would my biggest concern is that there's a stall, there's a stop, there's a slowdown in the progress that we've been making. And so I want to see progress continue along with our community. I have been, as you know, across the entire 4 years, going outside of our community, looking for different ways that people can invest in our community, trying to understand those industries, trying to support those industries as well. I also believe that in 4 years, we should have double the number of people living in our downtown core. Working with a developer who is looking at a $160 million project to add 800 residential units to the downtown core. Working with transit, so transit works better and absolutely cleaner and safer, because I'm the person who's actually said that I will put money towards better, safer downtown by supporting our police services, public health, the 50+ social service groups that support our community drug strategy and all the work that we need to do downtown to make it feel safer. All of these things need to get completed and will get completed over the next 4 years. So
Thank you. Patricia, hi. Since I didn't let you answer the same question as everyone else, I'm going to let you ask your question to Mayor Bigger.
Okay, thank you. I want to know exactly.
Can't hear you.
I want to know exactly how the decision was made that taxpayers would fund the big developments, and who made that decision.
So the decisions were presented in reports to council. Council considered these reports from staff, from the experts, and we made the decisions in council. So if you were following council meetings, you would have recognized that the decision was made in council. And part of the reason that we move forward with design build is to ensure that we don't have cost overruns. And you know, Maley Drive is a great example of great project management, where we're under budget at this point in time, and that project will be completed next year. So we've been very careful to build our plans and based on solid recommendations. And I can tell you that we went out to Standard & Poor's, and we've gotten a credit rating which our city has never.
Excuse me, for 1 minute.
Patricia, let me ask the question, please.
No, I
No, let me ask the
didn't
question.
answer my question. Was council presented with an option for a P3 development? Was council presented with that option?
Council reviewed P3s. We did have presentations in council.
For the Kingsway development, were they presented that option?
So
Brian, yes or no?
To have a P3 opportunity, you need a partner. And so there were no partners that came forward.
So Dario Zulich was not a partner?
There was no proposal for a P3, thank you.
So why was he
So,
telling everyone
Patricia,
in Greater
thank you.
Sudbury?
Thank you. We talked about development downtown. This question's come up a number of times tonight. I've got at least 2, if not 3 or 4. The general hospital's a stone's throw from downtown. What's your strategy to deal with this stagnated progress of the general hospital and the site? Jeff?
I want the job done. And I think everybody in this city wants the job done. I sat down and had coffee with the developer, Angela Butera, and we talked extensively about the building, about what the building needs to have happen, what his vision is for that building. And I have to tell you, his vision hasn't deterred. I am not about to speak for him, and I have to be very careful with the words that I choose. But I do believe that depending the outcome of this election and some changes at City Hall on how work is done regarding red tape, etc., that I really do believe that hospital will be completed into the condominiums that the developer has wanted all along. From my understanding and talking to him, he would like to see the job completed just as well as everybody else.
Thank you. Brian?
Thank you. I've also met with Mr. Butera and Panoramic, and I would also love to see the General Hospital project completed. The key is that it's a privately owned property. I know that there have been a number of individuals who've attempted to purchase that property, and the price is too high. So Mr. Butera has to decide it's time to move forward to make the investments that he intends, and we are encouraging the development, and we would love to see the development as well. However, at this point in time, it's not appropriate for the private sector individual to continue forward, and so he makes that decision, not the city. To make a unilateral decision or change rules that affect all developers in our community would have major impacts, and so we're not looking at that. Okay, we're looking at working with the developers that are investing at this point in time.
Cody?
I agree with what's been said. I definitely like to see something done with that building. I, on the other hand, would work with developers. I've gone on record to say that I would review development charges, and if they're halting progress in the city, then they need to stop. I think we also need to look at building permits and make sure that we're streamlining that process. There's no surprise that there's a stagnant economy here in Sudbury, and if we want to get things moving and we want to get people working, then we need to work with developers to move projects forward. If we're going to move projects forward, then we need to make sure we're working with developers to make sure that they are receiving the assistance they need from the City of Greater Sudbury to get these projects done. I don't think anybody in this room likes driving by that hospital on a daily basis and looking at that building in the state that it's in. So if elected mayor, that would definitely be a priority project for myself, and making sure we can find a solution to get that project moving.
Thank you. Bill?
Yeah, it's an eyesore. There is no doubt about that. We're talking about a private developer on a private piece of land at this moment in time in 2018, and there's not a heck of a lot we can do about it. But moving forward, other cities in North America actually, at the time of approving a project, they will say to the developer, okay, is this going to take 6 years? The developer says yes. How much of it would be done in 2 years? 20%. How much in 4 years? 80%. And then it's all done in 6 years. So what those cities do is they start charging the developer the tax that would be applicable if the project was 20% done at year 2. What the tax would be at year 4 would be 60% done. The developer then has an incentive to get the job finished. Like those numbers, we can massage them, they can be negotiated in the process. But I think developers need to have some sort of incentive in order to finish a project. That particular project, I don't know that we can do a whole lot about it now. And development fees, I keep hearing from the few developers that I've talked to, they compare ours to North Bay, and they say ours are, as a rule, about half the cost of North Bay. If that's the case, I think we should match North Bay in order to be competitive.
Dan?
Well, the fact of the matter is, if the city had not thrown up roadblocks when this development first got started, it had been finished years ago, we'd be collecting the taxes and we wouldn't be having this discussion. The developer spent a lot of time and money and with architects coming up with a design and a business plan for that piece of property, and it came before council and they started chopping chunks of it off. He wanted a restaurant in there. No, can't have the restaurant. He wanted a certain style. No, can't have that. So then it finally gets to the point where, okay, I'll make those changes. I'm not happy about it, but I'll do that. Then he wants to start construction. He let the contract for the cement work. He asked the city if he could set up the portable cement plant on the city property, the old parking lot area. No, you can't. To change that location for that temporary plant, and he was ready to remediate the property after he moved the cement plant off of it. But that one change, on top of the no the no restaurant, the restaurant. That one change to move that plant over was going to cost them an extra $1 million. Well, who could blame them for saying, hey, you know what? You guys don't want my $35 million development here? Fine. You got an eyesore. That's what you get when you don't work with developers. That's what you get when you throw up roadblocks, and that's what we've been doing in this city for far too long.
Patricia.
Thanks. So that site has been in that state. Actually, it's gotten worse since it was purchased for almost 9 years. So if we can't do anything about it until the developer's ready, it'll be like that for another 9 years or 90 years. I think the city has a responsibility to, for people who purchase these types of investments, a time frame of when they are going to do it. And if they're not, then can we buy it back? I mean, he's taken all the copper out, $2 million worth of copper. I don't know how much it would cost the city to buy it back, but we seem to have, you know, surplus funds. So we should buy it back, and it's not going to be a condominium complex that was determined because we don't have the population for that. So it would make a lot of good investments for us in the future. Did we look at that option of buying it back, Brian? Was that considered by council? I don't know. But we can't leave it there for another 9 years, and we can't throw up our hands and say, well, it's up to the developer, because obviously he doesn't care, and he's not paying taxes on a development, he's paying taxes on an empty building.
Thank you. Bit of a different question. The social structure of downtown has dramatically deteriorated. Safety is a big problem for many. What are you going to implement for the good of all those falling through the cracks? Addictions, homeless, mentally ill. Let's throw a bill.
I was hoping I wouldn't be first. I think one of the first things to do is, and again I'm quoted in the media for this, is to fund a safe injection site. I know that that's a provincial requirement, but our Doug Ford government has turned its back on that particular issue. And you know, we are all citizens and we are responsible for each other. And I think we need to do something. I do not pretend to know what all the steps are, but when I read the articles by people, professionals who are addiction specialists, they say safe injection site is the first step. I also think that there's probably an economic component to this. The people who are downtown and are addicted to various drugs or alcohol or whatever really do have a sense of hopelessness. And I'm not sure what we can do as a city to rectify that. I know I was really looking forward to the evidence that was going to come out of the basic income guarantee, yeah, that the former provincial government was doing. Now, that was nixed in the bud, so we do not have evidence again. I think that might have given the province and cities a lot of good ideas, because I do feel it's got to do with hopelessness, and we have to somehow give people their hope back. Without hope, I'm not sure what a person has. So, you know, first step would be safe injection sites, and if we start having residents downtown, as June Jacobs said a long time ago, we actually have eyes on the street. We have people who are on the street, you know, 24 hours a day, and that actually allows us to have our streets become safer. We don't necessarily need police walking up and down anymore. If we are using our streets, we can reclaim them, and that will go a long way to make them feel safe too.
Thank you. Jeff.
For 5 or 6 years, I sat on a charitable organization that actually helped allocate funds to the social programs to help groups that are here downtown. And to be perfectly honest with you, although I've worked in charities and I work in healthcare, I don't have all the answers. But I do know the people that are running those social programs have a far better idea of what is needed for the city than I do. And one of the first things I would do is I would take somebody from each of those programs and bring them into a room, and we would work out some type of plan, some type of direction to help this city move forward. We do have an issue with drugs, needles, etc. SASE has a great program in place to collect needles. It shouldn't fall solely on their shoulders. We should be helping them out. We should have some type of implementation program in place to help facilitate that act. Safe injection sites, I do think, are important from a healthcare provider's perspective. I think if you can help one, it's worth the cost. Like Bill said, I realize it's a provincially mandated thing, but I just can't keep passing the buck up to the province. I think we have a responsibility to look after those around us, and that's part of why we're here. We need to be empathetic. But I do think that we can do it a lot, but I do think the most important thing that we can do is bring the experts in that really do have an understanding of these issues and these problems, and allow them to guide us along the way on what needs to be done. Thank you.
Thank you. Dan.
Bring the experts in. Well, the experts are already downtown. You can talk to them. I've talked to a bunch of them. You know, Pastor Brad, Pastor Kevin. Last night we served 240 meals at the Elgin Street Mission for Thanksgiving dinner. You saw firsthand the individuals that are living on the street and have no place to go and are living with drug addictions and whatnot firsthand. And I'll tell you, it's not a pretty sight. And I think if you have the conversations with those people, as I did, and I have, you'll find very rapidly that most of them don't want to be there. They would rather be part of society and contributing. But they've gotten into this cycle, and it was explained to me by Pastor Brad, who's a previous drug addict and alcoholic, and 20 years ago cleaned up his life. He said, there's a cycle that you follow, and when you get to that certain point in that cycle, if there is the right program available, you can break it. And what we need to do is we need to provide the opportunity to break that cycle, so that the individuals who get to that point get the treatments that they need. Right now that doesn't exist, and as long as that doesn't exist, we're going to continue to have a drug problem, because we're not addressing the core issue of breaking that cycle. Safe injection sites, yes, there's papers on it and whatnot. You talk to the guys that are down there living with it, and they say that's not the answer. That is not the answer at all. Needle exchange programs aren't the answer. The answer, break the cycle. So what I would do is I would work with the provincial government and the social services that we have already in place in this city and refocus the efforts from trying to just cover up or put a Band-Aid on a bullet wound right now, and come up with some programs that are effective, that will provide the services that we're able to actually change these people's lives around, reduce the number of them, and solve the problem, or go a long ways to solving the problem and reducing the amount of that stuff that's going on in the city.
Thank you. Patricia.
This issue is the same issue many cities are having across North America. And from my research, no one has found the right answer for this. These are our weakest citizens, but they are our citizens. And many of them have mental health issues. They have other social issues, and we can't turn our backs on them. So I think that we have to work with our social service agencies. We have to make sure that they are fully funded to do the work that they're intended to do. I spent my morning at the Sudbury Women's Center, and I hadn't been there in 20 years. And I'm still shocked tonight to know that 5 women every day access the services there. So, and I see young people on the streets. We've had family friends who've lost their children to drugs and addiction. And it's a very serious issue. We can't run away from it. We have to try and marshal all of our resources and face it head on and not ignore it. And it's not them down there doing the drugs in the back alleys, it's us. They are us, and we need to help them as best we can.
Thank you. Brian?
So thank you very much. one of the things that we've been working on throughout this council term is working with partners, and so there was a comment, there's no plan. Well, we do have a community drug strategy, and we have 50+ social agencies that we work with and support through the city, including public health and Greater Sudbury Police Services. And so it's the full spectrum of services all working together in partnership. And so we have rapid response tables, and we have ways of dealing with high urgency items and problems that people are experiencing in the community. But one thing that we have also done, and I've been very proud, okay, we've been proactive to transfer the building on Larch Street to the Canadian Mental Health Association to expand with their funding the off-the-street program, the harm reduction program, and also to provide some transitional housing. So that transfer occurred a while back, and if you look closely at that building, you'll see it's under renovations as we speak. And so that should be completed next year. Also, we have also provided, and this is all available openly on council, on the city's website. We've also working with the Canadian Mental Health Association to provide transitional housing for a further 34 individuals. And so our program is the envy of many, many municipalities, and it came from a partnership, advocacy with the provincial government and with our municipal funds, because these are our citizens, and we've been proactive. I've been proactive in this, and feel very strongly about the connection between hopelessness and homelessness, and putting a house and even transitional housing over a roof over people's heads is their pathway to becoming productive citizens again within our community. And so it's a continuum. You have to get them off the street. You have to help them out through the harm reduction process. You need to put transitional and temporary housing opportunities in front of them to allow them to get back into our community. At the same time, we have urgent needs, and so I've had a number of meetings with SASE and other groups trying to figure out on the street, what are the problems? Why are we seeing more needles? How can we help? Okay, and one of these meetings, it resulted in identification that provincial funding had been cut for one of their volunteer programs. We were able to, out of municipal funds, find $72,000, that's the amount that they asked for, to pick up needles in the downtown. And through further meetings, we had conversations with them about sharps containers. And because sharps containers are free at all pharmacies, they are now, with other associations, handing out sharps containers. They're handing them out empty, they're coming back full. These are steps and things that we can do, small steps, but we need to work with all of our partner agencies all together, and we also need to have a program, which we do have, to deal with the more urgent matters in the downtown. But the aim is for a safer downtown, and I'm actually putting funds behind it. You know, a previous council talked about having the most walkable city by 2015, but you know, you can't get there if you don't put money behind it. Okay, and so what we've been successful in doing over the last 4 years is making decisions, putting money behind it, and doing the right thing.
Thank you. Cody.
I'm not sure what else to add to that. I think my colleagues up here have done a pretty good job of talking about the need for more support. Like Bill, I've also gone on record saying that, you know, I would welcome a safe injection site here in the city, or a monitored consumption site. But I think whatever we decide to do, I think it's important that together as a community we're coming up with some type of strategy. With during my conversations with the Greater Sudbury Police Service, it's one thing for them to go and enforce those who are either distributing drugs or using drugs in a specific area of the city. But if they remove that problem from a certain area and we don't go in and take those areas of the city back, whether it's by improving lighting or making those areas much more accommodating for the common citizen to go in and use those parts of our community, then those issues are going to continue to come back, and we're going to be dealing with those, and it's going to be cyclical. So I think in addition to making sure we're providing support for those who are vulnerable and are dealing with some of these social issues, we need to make sure that we're definitely doing our due diligence as well, whether it's through the BIA or through council or the mayor or through city staff, making sure that those areas are definitely looked after, and we're improving those areas to make sure that they're not being used as areas where these types of activities are taking place.
Thank you. Last question. Last question. Only one of you is going to win. So what I want you to do in the next minute and a half is tell us why the heck we should vote for you, number one. And number two, what do you intend to do over the next 4 years if you don't win? So with Patricia, minute and a half.
Okay, so your ROI, by electing me, I will respect taxpayers' dollars, first and foremost. I will run an open government where all our decisions will be put on our website and be available to the public. There will be no FOIs, so that's very important as well. And I will lead with integrity, something we've been missing in the city for the last little while, and more than 4 years, I think. So I think it's really important that people elect someone that they believe will get the job done, someone that they feel they can trust, and someone who really wants to put the best needs of Sudbury ahead of everything else. I'm not in this to get a job. I have a good job. I've retired from my career. I'm doing this because I really believe we have a lot of potential in Greater Sudbury, and I believe I can help facilitate that potential. I've been building community and businesses my whole life, and to me this is a wonderful challenge, and I know so many wonderful people who can help me. I would harness up the expertise that we have and move forward, and I'm really good at economic development too. That's second nature for me.
Dan Melanson.
That's it?
That's it.
Well, if elected, I will bring 40 years of business expertise to the office of mayor. A good portion of those 40 years were chairing board meetings where significant decisions were made with regards to acquisitions and disposition of significant assets in the hundreds of millions of dollars. We created, I was in on, from the ground floor, of creating a helicopter company that started with 2 helicopters, ended up with 67, with 27 operating bases across the country, ending up being the 3rd largest in the country at the time. And you don't do that without the ability to mediate, understand, bring people together, because a lot of that was done through acquisition of direct competitors and taking those guys that you were competing against one day and turning them into compatriots and team members to move forward is not an easy thing to do, but it's something that I've done over the years continuously. I believe that the economic well-being of Sudbury under my direction will improve. We will take new directions with regards to diversifying the economy and bringing in higher tech options for our youth to participate in through, obviously through the aviation industry, which is one that I'm intimate with, and know that there are a number of large corporations that are desperately seeking supply links in Canada, and particularly in Northern Ontario, to fulfill their offset requirements for contracts that they have gotten from the federal government. So I would be pursuing that with a view to diversifying the economy. And with that, I got the 5 fingers from
Thank you very
Mary,
much.
so that's it.
Jeff.
Well, win, lose, I know one thing that the first couple nights I will be spending time with my wife, my family, and my friends to thank them for their continued support. I'm sure there'll be at least 1, if not 2 bottles of beer that will be consumed. Having said that, with me as your mayor, you have someone who, a little younger than Dan, I've only got 32 years, but I've been working in the public sector for those 32 years. I've been working for you. People in the public sector don't always like to hear it, but let's face it, it's reality. We work for you. Without you, we don't work. And I've spoken to some lawyers and some engineers, some major developers, and one of the biggest beasts for cutting the red tape and moving forward in the city is when you call this city, you can wait a day, a week, a month before you ever get a response. Well, if I'm your mayor, you're not going to be waiting any more than half an hour to 45 minutes. We're going to make sure that your needs are met. We're going to make sure we're calling you back. Because you know what? As someone said here tonight, we're waiting for that developer to give us some reason, some idea to move forward. Well, I'm not going to wait. I'm going to be banging down that developer's door and saying, look, let's get things done. Let's get things moving forward. This is a progressive city, and if you live anywhere in this country and you want to go from one coast to the other, unless you want to hike up to Timmins, you got to come through Sudbury. So you know what? Let's make it the city that it should be, the hub of Northern Ontario that it should be, and have a fantastic life. And if I don't win, Jerry, I'm going to spend an awful lot of time on the golf course. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bill?
What I want to be is the mayor of all of Sudbury. I want to represent everybody in this community, the greater Sudbury area. I have a knack for recognizing talent. In my time as a professor, I have recognized young students who didn't have much in the way of money, who had exceptional talent, and I nurtured them. And I really feel proud that today I have 3 students out there who are professors today, and they will tell you that they would not have gone on to graduate work had it not been for me recognizing their talent and encouraging them to go the next step. And I feel that I can do that as mayor as well, both with councilors and with staff, senior management. It's something that I seem to be able to do. I'm not sure where I got that from. I want to improve our communication. If you read my platform, there are different ways that I see that we can improve our communication, because it seems that a lot of things that have happened the last 4 years haven't been explained properly. I don't know why. Is it because people wanted to save time and do it fast and dirty? I'm not sure. But we end up with a feeling that there's a paternalistic decision-making process, and I want that to end. I want it to be more inclusive. And I want it to be more transparent. I've got, if you've been reading, I've got the FOI that I put in on August 2nd, and every 30 days I get another reason why it's going to go another 30 days. And that FOI is about the Kingsway development. We hear that everything that's related to the Kingsway development is on the city website. It's not. I want to improve our communication and be open. Thank you.
Thank you. Cody?
I'm running for mayor because this is home for me. I was born and raised in Sudbury. I grew up just up the street here on Spruce Street, and I can't think of any other place I'd want to live. So win or lose, I'll probably be sticking around Sudbury. I've definitely been one who's been fortunate to carve out a career here. Working out in Caperell for the Railway Museum has been a phenomenal experience. I've been able to work with all 3 levels of government, local stakeholders, volunteers, and partners from all across the world, and it's been truly rewarding. I would love to bring that example and that success to the city as a whole. It would be an honor for me to be your mayor and represent you every day in order to help move this city forward. I'd love to, make it a priority of mine to create jobs in this community, move our economy forward. I would love to make sure that you are getting value for your tax dollar, making sure that we're spending your money wisely. And last and not least, I would love to make sure that we are empowering citizens, whether they're volunteers, workers, part of a BIA, it doesn't matter, to do their best work and work collectively to move our city forward. Again, if I don't get in, I will probably end up staying at the Railway Museum or looking for another opportunity here in Sudbury where I can help move this community forward. Thank you.
Brian, question's different for you, Brian. The question's different for you. So why should we re-elect you?
Well, I think the main reason that I've proven worthy of being elected is the ability to get things done as a council and working collaboratively with the city to move projects forward that had been on the back burners for many years, okay? Projects that are high priorities at the city for all of these years, and we've been able to move them forward, and we're moving forward, and you know, the city absolutely is better than it was in 2014. I ran on a platform of transparency and openness. I was the Auditor General, and we immediately, you know, provided agendas a week earlier. We've live streamed all of our council meetings. We've improved the details in the council reports and references to past reports on the websites, and we've demanded that all of the information be available on the city's website to be open and transparent in every possible way. The other thing that you know, I'm sure people can recognize that we don't have a stagnant economy. In 2017, we had the highest ever dollar value of investment by private companies, okay, in commercial real estate and industrial development. And we've also had, combined with that, the investment in our institutions like Laurentian University and so on, okay? We have exceeded the highest ever investment in commercial, industrial, and institutional development in the history of our city in 2017. And we were on track in 2018 to continue on that. So what you need is consistency in the mayor's office to not change horses, you know, midstream, to continue doing all of the things that we've got working forward at this point in time.
Thank you very much. Thank you, gentlemen and lady. I just want to recognize Troy Crowder. Is here, Troy? Stand up and wave. There he is. Thank you for coming out. Derek is here as well. Derek, which ward are you running in? Derek is running in Ward 11. Are there any other candidates here as well? I'm sorry, your first name? Trinity Wallace, Ward 9. Anyone else? Michael Vagniti, what ward? Which ward, Michael? I want to thank you very, very much. He's a mayor of like this, but he is okay. I want to thank you very, very much for coming in this evening. Thank you very much for your answers and for being open and honest with everyone. And I still apologize to you two guys for doing that, because I don't usually do that. You're supposed to stay neutral, eh? God damn, that's hard sometimes. I'm supposed to listen. I wasn't listening, obviously. So thank you very much. And thank you very, very much for showing up. I want to remind everyone to vote. You know, vote once. Well, I mean, you know, go and vote often. I don't care. And bring your friends out to vote as well, and encourage your neighbors, family, and everyone to come out to vote. So thank you very much, and have a nice evening.